the best part about it is that they're just going about handling their business. I was listening to Arvell Reese, is literally like 5-word sentences about himself and some of the things that Caleb has been talking about. The dudes are just so locked in here about just doing their job and not worrying about all the other things and awards. They know all those happen when you go win and you win decisively.
The Bobby Carpenter Show, only on SportsGrid.
We're going to have bet tracking for the first time. If you have a FanDuel account, you'll be able to track your bet on the Prime Video games. And tonight, if you are part of the ESPN Mega Content Service, we understand from an organization called Antenna that 2 million people at least have the ESPN Mega Content or Unlimited service. You will be able to track your bets also on tonight's NBA coverage. So this is the beginning of a major new era for basketball on television.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Like Marchand said, they're all a bunch of dirtballs, so I fit in with them. You know what I mean? Remember, like, the Phillies baseball team, like, with Kroc and Dykstra and all those guys? Like, yeah, they're just a bunch of dirtballs, right? And that's what the Panthers are. They're all the same. Like, they're all like to drink. They're all tough. They're all dirty in the corner. You know what I mean? They'll all do whatever it takes to win, but that's why they've won 2 cups in a row.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
For him and Cignetti are the most Spurrier-like personalities, Spurrier-like head coaches, and Cignetti's locked up. And you know what? And Ole Miss could very well lock Lane Kiffin up, but he will always be a fighting under. At Ole Miss, you will always be a little bit of an underdog because of who you're playing. At Florida, you don't ever have to be an underdog because of their resources.
The Bowden Blitz, only on SportsGrid.
The Early Line right here on the Sports Grid Network. It's just how we do. 1 hour down, 1 hour to go. The information, it never stops flowing. Why? Because we need to get you ready for the rest of your Sports Grid day, which includes the Sports Equinox, which we're going to get to in just a few moments. This is a great time. And, Joe, sometimes I sit back to myself and say, like, for all those shows, which we're professionals at what we do, but we still get amped up once football season hits and into the fall. Why? Not because the weather is changing, we can sit on our couch on Sundays. There's so much to talk about where it's an endless flow of unbelievable topics where sometimes you sit there in that month of July going like, there's not even Major League Baseball on tonight. Oh, let's look at the futures for the NFL market. I love this time of year, and I love the energy, and even all the sports we watch on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, to have that energy for the people on a Monday morning, it's very important.
Donnie, it's Christmas in October for sports fans.
Yeah,
I mean, that's just no way around it. And it's kind of hard to believe, but this has been a regular thing since 2015, and it's the 5th consecutive year that NFL, Major League Baseball, NBA, NHL, and don't forget, Donnie, the MLS all playing on the same day.
Love to see it here. You know, this was playing on the same day yesterday. Icy white uniforms for the Green Bay Packers and ugly medieval times uniforms for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Here's the early lineup, and it starts with those Green Bay Packers. Impressive. Why? 16-7 deficit in the first half. They go to halftime, they regroup, they score 4 touchdowns in the second half and grab a double-digit victory over the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Packers were favored by as many as 3 points at most outlets here, and the total easily goes over. The question here is, what's up with that Pittsburgh Steelers defense, and why couldn't they show up last night? And Jordan Love, he got the better of his predecessor there, Aaron Rodgers, by throwing for 360 yards and 3 touchdown passes. The Packers, one of the best teams in the NFL, with a 5-1-1 record now.
Yeah, the Steelers defense is not good here. I mean, how many more times are going to watch a Steelers defense give up 30 points, Donnie? Like, it's absolutely... We keep waiting for the Steelers defense to turn things around, but the reality is, Donnie, they can't get to the quarterback. They can't get any pressure unless they all-out blitz. And when you do it against a quarterback like Jordan Love, who is one of the best when you blitz him, and he showed it last night. You want to come after me? Great. He was picking them apart in that second half. That game was over by the time we got to the fourth quarter, and it was apparent outside of that, empty netter that the Pittsburgh offense finally scored at the end. It was all Jordan Love and the offense of Green Bay.
You know who the fault was last year at the Cincinnati Bengals? Not injuries, it's Lou Anarumo. He's clearly the fault. Where'd Lou wind up? Was he out of the league? No, he's with the Colts, with maybe the best team in the NFL right now. Al Golden's going to fix all those issues. 39 points for the Jets without basically any weapons outside of Breece Hall, running back, who did have a fantastic game yesterday. Justin Fields, whose own owner said to him, Joe, I don't think this guy can complete a pass. We completed 21 of those passes here. And also, after the post game, we actually had some video here from Justin Fields. How about that?
A lot of, it's been a lot for me, emotionally, spiritually. When I was on the field, I was damn near about to start crying, but not because we won, but just because of the goodness of God and just how everything, works for the greater good, everything that I've been through this past week, everything that we've been through as a team these past 7 weeks. It was a lot of ups and downs. I got a lot of support from my teammates, from my brothers, from my family, from my friends, and most of all, I'm just thankful, thankful for the Lord's that He blessed me. I mean, But all that to say is that, God is real, God is good, and everything that we go through in this life is for a purpose. So,
I don't. Again, humanity does play into this, but as a professional quarterback, it's not that deep. It's really not. You're getting paid millions of dollars. You stink at quarterback. You won a football game. Can you just get up to the podium and say, you know what? Frustration here. I want to put my best foot forward and play football, winning football for the Jets. We got that done today. No more questions. I'll go back to the locker room and get on a plane. What does it feel like he's a martyr right now playing quarterback for the Jets? What's the deal?
That nothing out of his mouth. If I'm in that locker room, am I going, man, that's our leader. I'll go into battle. I'll go into war. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Like, I mean, so what happens after you lose the next game by 30? What is that? Are we going to be on, we're going to have to get the straitjacket padded room? Like, what are we doing here? Why is this guy at the podium at all is beyond me here. Congratulations. Great. You know who should have been at the podium? Breece Hall, because he's the reason you actually won that game. Unbelievable, man. Really is.
Who actually went to the podium for the Jets yesterday was Jonathan Taylor, because how good he was and how good the Colts are at 7-1. I don't think Daniel Jones and Jonathan Taylor are having pity parties there up on the podium. They're playing good, winning football. Daniel Jones, 272 and 3 touchdowns. Jonathan Taylor, 12 carries for 153 yards and 2 scores, and added a catch, or 2 catches for 21 yards and another touchdown. This man is a machine, but so is that Colts offense. Wow.
Yeah, well, again, and they've done it against a pretty favorable schedule there. I mean, the Titans, not exactly the who's who defensively here. But listen, you can only win the games that are on the schedule, and they're winning them in the exact same fashion that they have all of these games, Donnie. They're playing from in front. They get the teams early, and they put them away in the third quarter, and that's all she wrote there. So this is a very real team that seems to be getting better and better. But I'd like to see it against a little better defenses moving forward before we crown them AFC champions here.
I know we can't crown them just yet because the Buffalo Bills went on the road yesterday and knocked off the Panthers here, 5-2 now. By the way, that was a Panthers team coming in with a winning record at 4-3. If I would have told you, Joe, before the game, Josh Allen going to have 12 completions and throw 1 touchdown pass. Ooh, we're in a fight. No, we weren't. 40-9 in the score. Doesn't even indicate how one-sided this was because Andy Dalton got sacked 7 times and had multiple turns. That guy stinks, man. Woof.
Yeah, it looked like he hadn't played in like 9 years, and that's kind of exactly what it is. But, at the same time, he's also got wide receivers that the ball's going right through their hands, bouncing off their chest. I mean, it was just a comedy of errors in there. I mean, one of the snaps actually hit the running back, hit Hubbard and couldn't even get to him. The whole thing was an absolute mess. But more importantly, the Buffalo Bills coming out of the bye, I think they decided what they were going to work on, and what they worked on was being an even more ferocious running team, because the word into that game, Donnie, right, is that how good Carolina's rush defense was. Yep. I guess it's not that good after all.
No, it certainly isn't. By the way, not that good after all. That's the LSU Tigers. Brian Kelly's been fired. And by the way, does any coach ever live up to the expectations of a huge contract? Like, I guess you could say Dabo Swinney did, Nick Saban, Kirby Smart, but there's 100 other football programs out there and a lot of money to be rolled around. It's almost like if you're a coach, like, just give me the big contract. I know in 2 years you're going to throw me out this door, but you're going to give me $50 million on the way out, plus already what I made. Brian Kelly out at LSU.
The whole thing, and apparently it was very contentious too, because Brian Kelly was apparently prepping to fire his offensive coordinator in this week off and was going to make some staff, because that's usually how it works before the head coach goes. But apparently that was not a very good meeting there, and ultimately it ended with Brian Kelly walking out of the door with a $50 million check to go away.
By the way, must be getting a $50 million check soon. Austin Reeves, he didn't want to sign a long-term extension. He says, I'm going to roll the dice here and play good basketball this year. 51 points out of Reeves, and a Lakers victory on the road as underdogs without Luka Doncic.
Yeah, and Luka with the finger shocked that we got a Luka injury this in the season here. But it didn't matter because you were playing the Kings, and they still won 127 to 120. So kudos to him.
Sports Equinox, Joe. How are you celebrating this? You going out to Monty's? Where are you going out there in South Beach, huh?
I'm with multiple TVs on all at the same time there, Donnie. That's how it works. Beginning at 6:30, I believe, when Cincinnati FC kicks off for the MLS.
Now, maybe Joe's just going to plug in and have some fun tonight. It's an Equinox, people. Enjoy the early line. We enjoy everything, including hot college football topics. Next.
The best part about it is that they're just going about handling their business. I was listening to Arvell Reese and his literally like 5-word sentences about himself and some of the things that Caleb has been talking about. The dudes are just so locked in here about just doing their job and not worrying about all the other things and awards. They know all those happen when you go win and you win decisively.
The Bobby Carpenter Show, only on SportsGrid.
We're going to have bet tracking for the first time. If you have a FanDuel account, you'll be able to track your bet on the Prime Video games. And tonight, if you are part of the ESPN Mega Content Service, we understand from an organization called Antenna that 2 million people at least have the ESPN Mega Content or Limited service. You will be able to track your bets also on tonight's NBA coverage. So this is the beginning of a major new era for basketball on television.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Like Marchand said, they're all a bunch of dirtballs, so I fit in with them. You know what I mean? Remember, like, the Phillies baseball team, like, with Croc and Dykstra and all those guys? Like, yeah, they're just a bunch of dirtballs, right? And that's what the Panthers are. They're all the same. Like, they're all like to drink. They're all tough. They're all dirty in the corner. You know what I mean? They'll all do whatever it takes to win, but that's why they've won 2 cups in a row.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
For him and Signetti are the most Spurrier-like personalities, Spurrier-like head coaches, and Signetti's locked up. And you know what? And Ole Miss could very well lock Lane Kiffin up, but he will always be a fighting under. At Ole Miss, you will always be a little bit of an underdog because of who you're playing. At Florida, you don't ever have to be an underdog because of their resources.
The Bowden Blitz, only on SportsGrid.
What a weekend it was in college football. It's Donnie right side. It's Joe Ranieri. It's the early line right here on the SportsGrid Network, setting the table for yet another week. And by the way, correct me if I'm wrong, it's going to be week number 10 in college football. It was just week 0. This is why we can't have nice things, because I wish I could just hit the stop button and enjoy this all the way through. But also understand this. We have a lot more college football to go, because if you didn't take a look at the expanded playoff, we're in October right now. You're going to play in the November, Joe. You're going to play into December, Joe. You're going to play well into January, feeling like you're going to rival the NFL and the Super Bowl. So we got a lot more football to get to, which includes the AP Top 25 poll. Each and every week, these are going to change. The top 10, Ohio State, Indiana, A&M, Alabama, Georgia, Oregon, Ole Miss, Georgia Tech, Vanderbilt, and Miami in that top 10. I was joking before here a little bit earlier with Joe behind the scenes. Like Georgia Tech at number 8 hasn't played anybody yet. They don't have anybody on their schedule, which is interesting, but it's a 12-team playoff, Joe. You see who sits there at number 12 in that slot? It's Notre Dame. That's done strategically to make sure the Irish, as long as they don't falter, they'll keep them right in that 12 spot.
Oh, yeah. And they'll be there when it's all said and done. Make no mistake about it. They will be part of the top 12. And, Georgia Tech quietly flying under the radar, just winning games and, remaining in the top 10. But Vandy is become everyone's, college football playoff darling here in hopes of getting it done here, even though they almost lost that game against Missouri on a Hail Mary that somehow completed but landed, Donnie, about a foot short of the goal line, which is crazy when you think about it.
It is crazy. By the way, if we look at LSU and Brian Kelly has been fired, we talked about it a couple times today, but now we can get into it a little bit deeper. Understand this, like he left Notre Dame to go to the SEC and go to LSU because he figured bigger budget, maybe a little bit easier to recruit down there, easier to get the kids in school. Remove that from the equation. I always like to have a conversation with, because coaches always want to coach at the pinnacle of their sport. And it's clear the SEC is the pinnacle of the sport. You are going to get a lot more money. But what is your longevity in the SEC? And I'm being honest, like Kirby Smart has some longevity because he's a national champion at Georgia. But if Georgia loses 3 games, like people talk about, I got to get rid of this guy. I can't have him. Well, wait a second. He just won a couple. That doesn't matter. Like Dabo Swinney at Clemson is in the ACC. He's not having a good season, but has multiple national championships. It's easy to get if you have a pulse, 10-win seasons. I always wonder why, outside of let me challenge myself, why you would ever want to go to the SEC, because your life is not going to be long there as a coach. Like Ed Orgeron won a national championship. They threw that guy out the door. Coaching in the SEC, not good for your lifespan. If you want, hey, man, been at this institution 10 years. That doesn't happen that much.
No, and there's a theme here, Donnie, especially when it comes to LSU, because you brought up good old Ed Orgeron there, who was run out of town by this athletic director, Scott Woodward, by the way, who also happens to be the guy that gave Jimbo Fisher a contract for the ages, in which Texas A&M is still paying $76 million when they fired him, thanks to this athletic. How does this athletic director keep getting a job is my question, because he is literally the definition of believing that the grass is absolutely greener on the other side. And guess what, Donnie? It is yet to be greener on the other side with him. So congratulations. You couldn't wait to hire Brian Kelly, the big splashy hire, and you got rid of Ed Orgeron, who was made for LSU football. And look what happens. Yeah, congratulations. Now you're paying this guy $50 million to go away.
As they say, Joe, don't ever mess with family when you get down to LSU at this point. Boy, that was just a match made in hell between that fan base, that coach, and the results that they absolutely got. Now, you want to say, okay, give them a couple years to get back in. In college football, you are expected to get into the college football playoff now that it's 12 teams. If you don't, you're hired to be fired, and that's what happened with Brian Kelly, which then brings us up to the coaching carousel. It's not going to stop spinning, and I keep telling people, there's not rock stars that you could just fill all these spots. LSU, Florida, Penn State, UCLA, Arkansas, Virginia Tech, Oklahoma State, and Stanford. There's not enough big names to go around, but there is going to be big money to go around for some of these football teams.
Huge. Absolutely huge money to go around. And it's just not listen, every year we have this coaching carousel, but Donnie, usually we don't have this conversation until before bowl time, right? The end of the regular season, and then these jobs become available. The amount of blue blood football programs that have gone the way of, forget it, you're starting the season with one guy and then you're not even allowing them to see it through and finish it. You're firing them mid-season and writing these $50 million checks like it's no big deal is just head scratching. So what is the next guy going to do? What are you going to go year to year? What is the next buyout going to be, Donnie? Because if I'm Lane Kiffin, in my contract, it's going to be $100 million if you don't let me finish this contract. It's that simple. You're going to have to buy me out for $100 million.
Look, Joe, the Los Angeles Angels got it right. There's a turning of the tide. 1 year deals for coaches and managers here. That's the future of the sport, to make sure you get the best out of it. And by the way, we might have had another body stacked up on that pile with Steve Sarkisian, who pulled out a miracle victory. Here's Steve talking.
I'd love to touch on this, so bear with me for a second, because it really pisses me off that one person can make a report that in turn the entire media sports world runs with as factual, to the point of my agency and my agents have to put a statement out that they never have done. Historically, CAA, Jimmy Sexton, and Ed Manowitz have never do that. But I had to do that to protect my locker room and my team. And I thought it was absolutely ridiculous. I thought it was completely unprofessional of that person to put that report out. And the fact that everybody ran with it is borderline embarrassing for the media. And I respect what you guys do. I really do. And everybody else. But the fact that everybody ran that as truth is really embarrassing. Okay, so I've got a small circle when I make decisions on what I do and what I don't do. And nobody would speak on my behalf without me knowing. And so where that report came from, I'd love to talk to that person, because it's absolutely ridiculous.
Why does the press run with that, Joe? Because coaches lie about every single thing in their life, which includes which job they're going to take next. That's why it's out there, Steve. How about that?
Yeah, it's not that hard to figure out. Seen this how many times, Donnie? I mean, we've seen this movie over and over and over again.
Saw it with Nick Saban. Well, I am not going to be the head coach for the Alabama Crimson Tide. A couple days later, he was the coach for the Alabama Crimson Tide. Let's get back to college football before we flip it over to the World Series, right here on the Early Line.
Very young team outside of Durant. They're going to be an impossible out in a 7-game series, and I'm predicting it right now. If the seeding lines up, you are getting the Thunder and the Rockets in the Western Conference Finals. There's not another team in the West that's going to be as good as the Rockets are when we get to playoff time.
The Craig Carton Show, only on SportsGrid.
I don't want people to stop discounting how good of a coach Rick Carlisle is. And I think they're going to find a way to get it done. I think they're going to be better than people think. And I also think if that's the case, then I'm fading someone in that division. You know who I'm fading, and that's the Milwaukee Bucks, who have now cut 2 players this year so that they can bring back both Antetokounmpo to play with Giannis.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
People who filed it are actually representatives of Chicago, so they're from the city. They're kind of saying, you know, this is really going to cripple the industry if we do this even more. I think it's really important when we talk about this stuff because so many places want to keep taxing sports betting more and more and more, which is well within their right. But there gets to a point where the bubble bursts and sports books either don't want to do business or they change the way they do it by passing it down to the customer.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Football contest season is back, and so is the Las Vegas Football Contest Show, Season 2, the sharpest football contest show in the land. Focusing on all 3 Circa Sports contests and the Westgate Superbook Super Contest, we handicap the games and release our contest picks every week of the season. Featuring Super Contest champions Brady Cannon, James Salinas, and former NFL player Mike Pritchard, all team will have you prepared this season like none other. Check us out every weekend right here on SportsGrid.
And how about the reason that LSU fired their head coach? Another log on the fire here, and that was, my goodness, Texas A&M. They are for real. They went in and turned the screws to LSU, 49-25. And by the way, this game was close for a good portion until the bottom fell out on LSU and the regime of Brian Kelly. A&M deservedly so. That number 3 ranking hammered LSU down in Tiger Stadium on a Saturday night. What?
Yeah, it went from bad to worse, especially in LSU. In Death Valley to be ahead at the break, Donnie, and then the absolute wheels falling off, and Brian Kelly screaming at his quarterback on the sideline, trying to throw his helmet, screaming at the offensive court. I mean, you could tell it went from bad to worse in a hurry. But give credit to Texas A&M, who has put it together with Mike Elko. And this is a dangerous team here moving forward. That's for sure out of the SEC.
How about this one, too? Look, I got to do a full 180 at this point, right? And say, you know what? I was wrong on Kurt Cignetti. Like, all that bluster last year, I was actually rooting for him to get beat in the playoffs, and they did. I like this team. I like the swag. I like the fact that Indiana has a coach that could have went anywhere. It's like, you know what? I'm the renegade guy. I'm the one that I'm telling you to worry about. I'm going to stay at Indiana, and I'm going to make sure the Big Ten hears Indiana football roar, which the Blue Bloods probably don't want to have happen. 56-6. They pound UCLA, who was actually on a little bit of a win streak here. A 50-point win for Indiana. I love Team Sig, man. I love them.
Yeah, you gotta love it. Because it's so funny. Fernando Mendoza, the quarterback, it was so ugly. They actually rolled his brother in to be the quarterback during that game, and he came in and scored his own touchdown. But Donnie, Indiana's 4 remaining teams they have to play: Maryland, Penn State, Wisconsin, and Purdue. They're 1 for 17 in conference play. You got to be kidding me.
Look at that, man. Oh, the strength of the Big Ten, top to bottom. It's fantastic the way we go. Not really the case here, but it is fact that we have 12 teams getting into the playoff. You're also going to see them probably with a really good game in the Big Ten championship game. So a lot of fun to look forward to for Indiana, who are smoking every team they play. Outside of the Alabama Crimson Tide's first game of the season where they fell to Florida State, they've been looking really good. 5-0 now in the SEC after going on the road and holding off the South Carolina Gamecocks, who dropped to 1-5 in the SEC. Bama, top 5, handles their business.
Yeah, but they survived, which is what you got to do on the road in the SEC. So kudos to them. Wasn't their great game, but they were down to 8 with just over 2 minutes left. And Ty Simpson comes to the rescue. Big touchdown pass. Really gutsy performance there at the end to get it done. So kudos. Another Lenora Sellers choke job there at the end.
Defense. The Vanderbilt Commodores improved to 3-1 in the SEC with a 7-point victory over a top 15 Missouri Tigers team. Diego Pavia only completed 10 passes for $129. Didn't even throw a touchdown and threw an interception. It didn't matter. Defense ruled the day, and the Commodores stay in the top 10.
Yeah, and I believe, did you see the student there at Vandy that drilled the $500,000 college game day field goal just before there, Donnie? Ends up getting the check, gets $500K. And then, of course, Vandy, by the skin of their teeth, gets it done, even though that Hail Mary pass, boy, that was a foot away from being disaster for Vandy.
Could have been. How about Oregon? In one of those games, maybe they sleepwalk through a 21-7 victory here over Wisconsin. Maybe Wisconsin's best showing they had all season on the road at Oregon.
Yeah, and Oregon it was awful conditions there. I mean, awful weather-wise there. But they got it done. That was the bottom line. You win, you advance. The game against Iowa is going to be the big game for Oregon next on the road.
Kill Iowa, man. Just beat them up for once in our lives here. Talking about killing in high spreads here. You're getting that in Major League Baseball tonight, Joe. World Series game number 3, Chavez Ravine, 8 p.m. Eastern tonight, and a minus 205 favorite at most outlets right now as it sits for the Los Angeles Dodgers, and a total starting to see the 8.5s creep in, and I agree with it. I think the Dodgers bats come alive, and they pick up a victory tonight over the Jays and Max Scherzer.
Yeah, this is going to be these next 3 games in LA is really, do we get back to Toronto? We may not here because the pitching advantage is clearly in favor of one team, which is why these totals are starting to go up.
Yeah, take a look here at Ohtani, World Series MVP. He's listed at a plus 180 price. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. at a 6-1 price. Basically assenting. If Ohtani and the Dodgers win, it's going to be Ohtani. And again, if the Toronto Blue Jays win it, it's going to be Vladimir Guerrero Jr. But watch out there for anybody that comes up big and hits home runs. Those numbers can change certainly in the blink of an eye. talking about changing in the blink of an eye each and every week in the NFL. We get surprises on Sunday afternoons. No surprise, the Eagles finally got back at their little brother, the Giants, and pounded them into submission. Let's talk about Jalen Hurts. MVP? You just see Texas in any game, and again, Kentucky used to be able to put up points in the past. 43.5 is crazy because it just feels like Texas is going to come in, play really good defense, and try to squeeze this game out. It'll be interesting to see because nothing got ailed from that victory last week. Texas is back. I'm just being facetious at this point, but if we see one of those performances, 17-14 Texas
in the fourth quarter,
yeah, come on,
right? I mean, really? I mean, they got a gift last week.
SportsGrid's College Football Today.
Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. It looks like the Bengals fantasy pieces are back. What did you make of that Joe Flacco performance on Thursday night? Turning back time.
Yeah, it was great for a guy like me with gray in the beard. I love seeing it. I love my representation. But at the end of the day, just from a wagering standpoint, if this continues, it'll give some consistency and it'll give some value back to those tools that you were mentioning on the Bengals.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
Defense is above average this year, and I think big picture they're going to be probably the most consistent moving forward. The problem I have is this guy, Trevor Lawrence, big picture. You got to take the good, the bad, and the ugly. And the ugly sometimes is real ugly. He is not comfortable in the pocket on a consistent basis, and that's a problem.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
Very young team outside of Durham. They're going to be an impossible out in a 7-game series, and I'm predicting it right now. If the seeding lines up, you are getting the Thunder and the Rockets in the Western Conference Finals. There's not another team in the West that's going to be as good as the Rockets are when we get to playoff time.
The Craig Carton Show, only on SportsGrid.
Unbeaten in the Kelly Greens. That's the Philadelphia Eagles. And they won yesterday against the New York Giants 38-20. To be honest, all week long I told you I probably would take the Giants at plus 7.5. Granted, it didn't help the Giants where there was a tush push, that was a fumble that wasn't called. And Cam Scatterbo, when that game was still competitive, his ankle took a left turn back up the turnpike to go home. And away the Eagles went in an easy victory. And Saquon Barkley returned back to being Saquon Barkley. Only 14 carries, but 150 yards and a touchdown, which included that 65-yard run to start the game. Really good win for the Philadelphia Eagles, but the Giants, just by attrition, man, not looking good for the remaining parts of their schedule as they're 0-5 on the road. Close game early, just didn't have enough firepower to stay late with the Philadelphia Eagles as they made up for that Thursday night football game about 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, it was, listen, the idea that the Giants were somehow going to sweep the Eagles this year is kind of laughable. But, they ended up splitting with them, which is good. I mean, listen, you got a rookie quarterback. It's a rebuild in New York. I don't care what anybody says. The only thing that, ownership is going to have to figure out is whether or not Dable's the guy to see that rebuild through, or if they think they finally now have a franchise quarterback, they got to bring somebody else in here to bring them along. So that's the only question. The idea that they're somehow going to go on this crazy stretch and make it to the postseason, I don't think that was ever a reality here, Donnie.
Yeah, there's things, and again, like the evolution of me being a fan, right? If you are a Giants fan, you want to see they have a franchise quarterback. Looks like you possibly have that. Just protect him at all costs. Understand this. Brian Dable's coaching for his life. Their general manager is coaching for, or should I say, managing, if you will, for his life in the NFL as being upper management. Don't do it at the peril of, I need to run Jackson Dart 37 times down the stretch with no, just to see if I can squeeze out an extra win. The Giants are probably going to do that because coaches go into self-preservation mode, and that's what's going to happen here in New York. I hope it doesn't. You already lost Neighbors. You lost Scatterboo. Don't you dare lose Jackson Dart, which will hurt that all season with any major injuries that he might have at this point. But the Eagles did pick up that victory. They move forward, first place in the NFC East. How about this? Drake May, man. 32 points for the Patriots against a really quality defense. This guy's throwing the football all over the place, athletic. This is what you hope for, Giants fans, to get a guy like Dart to turn into Drake May. And understand this. You see that final score? Did you know that you had a guy on defense that makes hundreds of millions of dollars come up with 5 sacks? You know who we're talking about right now, and still get blown out. So when I say, Joe, as you know, this game was nice. It's an easy victory for New England. The thought process of building a football team and signing a guy like Myles Garrett to hundreds of millions of dollars, knowing that it's not even going to have an impact on the field. What do you mean, Donnie? He had 5 sacks. You got beat by 3 touchdowns, and your star had 3 sacks and 5 sacks, and it didn't matter. Signing Myles Garrett instead of trading him, stupidity to the highest degree in Cleveland.
Like everything they do in that organization. But the question is, how much longer before we see Shedeur Sanders?
Oh, come on, put him in,
under
Joe.
center here at this point. I mean, that's what this season is for them. I don't know what they thought it was, but clearly they've got to use this season to figure out what is going on. But tell me, coaching doesn't matter, because what Mike Vrabel has done with the Patriots, now have won 5 straight. And manhandled that defense. And to me, I wanted to see a real defense. What does Drake May do against a legit top 10 defense? And he shredded them. I mean, absolutely shredded them. So coaching matters. And right now, Drake May has got 2 of the very best in OC and head coach that are guiding his career. Should be a whole lot of fun to watch him finish the season here, ruining maybe the hopes and dreams of a few other fan bases.
By the way, every time, like, we hot and cold sometimes on the takes here. You hope to get more hot takes better than cold takes that they turn out to be. And I thought Brian Dable was going to be a good coach, and he's not a good coach. But also, I knew Raheem Morris was not going to fit in for the Atlanta Falcons. The Dolphins team quit on the organization, and we're just waiting to see. The trade deadline is the Dolphins going to blow their team up. Is Tua going to get cut at the end of the season? And no way McDaniel can be your coach next year. If not, you better just have a complete change of philosophy and say, I'm not going to fire you because you make too much money, and maybe I'll give you 1 more year, as the owner Stephen Ross would say. The fact that Tua Tagovailoa came into that dome yesterday, went 20 of 26 for 4 touchdown passes and no interceptions, and was only sacked 1 time in that game. For you to start Kirk Cousins, who you told everybody in your building, we're talking about you, Atlanta, that, hey, man, we're not going to trade this guy. He's so valuable as a backup quarterback that watch this plan work out. Kirk Cousins was embarrassing yesterday against a team that Joe and I could run halfback and fullback and get first down after first down against that Dolphins defense. Bijan Robinson, 9 carries, 25 yards. Tyler Algier, 4 carries for 4 yards yesterday. This might have been the most, and there were embarrassing performances yesterday. We're talking about you, Carolina. The Falcons to get beat 34-10 at home by that Dolphins team. You want to talk about coaching carousel? It should be turning right now, Joe.
Yeah, I thought the whole thing was a disaster from the get-go. And by the way, I mean, I don't care that Penix didn't play. You're paying $40 million to your backup quarterback there. There should have been more competitiveness in that game. But now we're talking about back-to-back double-digit losses, including a shutout loss already this year for Raheem Morris. Yeah, some guys are just not great head coaches, and I think we're seeing that in Atlanta right now.
Tua's happy, though. Let's get to some Tua remarks.
Good. I mean, I would say that was one of the better team wins that we've had in all 3 phases. Defense allowing us to get the ball back, defense stopping them on 3rd down, us being able to convert those 3rd downs. Outside of that, convert a couple 4th downs to keep us in the game and then allow us to be able to go down and score. That was our goal, I would say, is to not end with 3 as much times as we get down there in the red zone. Is to end with 7, and for the defense, vice versa, not allow them to get 7, allow them to get 3. So I think we did a really good job with that today, and this is sort of the swag I think we got to continue to flow over to the next week's game, next opponent.
No, you can't. Joe, quarterbacks are missing the mark completely. You can have that conversation on the podium if you're 500 or better, talking about we're turning this thing around, we're making the playoffs. You can't go up there in your mom's bathrobe and throw in some sunglasses and be like, that swag is back. I don't think Dolphins fans want to hear. Is that what the Dolphins fans want to hear after that game? We want to turn this swag over knowing that their season is dead in the water. I always say, Joe, professional athletes live a different life than the common man. And it's apparent more and more on Sunday afternoons where these quarterbacks have no idea what they're talking about or reflect any sentiment of what their fan base is talking about either.
Yeah, not a clue, Donnie. The self-awareness here is just lacking across the board with these quarterbacks. And I'll tell you this, is anybody shocked that Tua had the game of the year indoors where the controlled temperature was 70 degrees? I'll tell you what, Tua, do it outdoors in sub 40 degree temperature and let me be impressed then. Until then, just settle down, move on to the next game, because the next game you'll be benched again the minute it's outdoors in cold weather this time of year.
Absolutely.
Unreal.
Baltimore, by the way, with an easy victory over the Chicago Bears. Before we get to the game itself, Joe, we had some interesting doings this week. The optics were bad across professional sports. Not that it's their fault. Gambling, insider information. The NFL got hit with an absolute haymaker late in the week, where Harbaugh has always done in Baltimore. It doesn't give you any information, always lies to you. They took it to the 10th degree this past weekend by why? Saying that Lamar Jackson was a full participant, knowing full well he never was a full participant this week and was on scout team running half speed, but they said he competed in just about every unbelievable stuff. Let me ask you this question. What do you think the fine is going to look like for the Ravens? And what a bad optics turn by the NFL, who was like, hey, at least we're not in these headlines right now, threw themselves right in the headlines with spread moving, spread manipulation, and not giving the right information that's so easy to report.
And I'll tell you this, Donnie, and he has been notorious for it. So he's been doing this for forever. But they have no choice but to make an example, Donnie. Do not be shocked if the NFL docks them draft picks for doing this stupidness at the wrong time. Wrong place, wrong time, Harbaugh. And they are going to pay the price for this from the NFL.
They absolutely should. And most people say, well, what's the big difference? They won. It's not a big deal. After the break, Joe and I are going to tell you why it's a big deal and how it played into that game overall. Radio in the early line. It's what we talk about. It's what we do, people. Come on back with us. You just see Texas in any game, and again, Kentucky used to be able to put up points in the past. 43.5 is crazy because it just feels like Texas is going to come in and play really good defense and try to squeeze this game out. It'll be interesting to see because nothing got ailed from that victory last week. Texas is back. I'm just being facetious at this point, but if we see one of those performances 17-14 Texas
in the fourth quarter,
yeah, come on,
right? Really? They got a gift last week.
SportsGrid's College Football Today.
Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, it looks like the Bengals fantasy pieces are back. What did you make of that Joe Flacco performance on Thursday night? Turning back time.
Yeah, it was great for a guy like me with gray in the beard. I love seeing it. I love my representation. But at the end of the day, just from a wagering standpoint, if this continues, it'll give some consistency and it'll give some value back to those tools that you were mentioning on the Bengals.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
Defense is above average this year, and I think big picture they're going to be probably the most consistent moving forward. The problem I have is this guy, Trevor Lawrence, big picture. You got to take the good, the bad, and the ugly. And the ugly sometimes is real ugly. He is not comfortable in the pocket on a consistent basis, and that's a problem.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
Very young team outside of Durant. They're going to be an impossible out in a 7-game series, and I'm predicting it right now. If the seeding lines up, you are getting the Thunder and the Rockets in the Western Conference Finals. There's not another team in the West that's going to be as good as the Rockets are when we get to playoff time.
The Craig Carton Show, only on SportsGrid.
Ravens easily dispatched of the Chicago Bears 30-16. That's comes as a surprise because if you would have told me that final score, like, yeah, Lamar probably played well. It was Tyler Huntley starting quarterback, 17 of 22, a $186 in the air, 1 touchdown pass, and also chipped in with 8 carries for 53 yards, playing a little Lamar-like. 2 touchdowns on the ground for Derrick Henry. But the big news was the 6.5-point line going all the way down to 1.5. Why? Because the simple fact that Lamar Jackson didn't play in this game when he was a full practice participant on Friday, which is usually the indicator that he's going to start on Sunday. And this is the funny part about it, right? Like, if you felt like, man, stole that line with the Bears, woo, or the Ravens backers, like, I just was lied to at this point. It's Friday afternoon. I took 6.5 here with an easy victory I thought they would have over the Bears because Lamar's coming back. Imagine that. A 14-point win for the Ravens. Like, the spread didn't even come into play, but boy, oh boy, those lines were shifting late in the week.
I mean, again, the problem here is the sudden change in your starting quarterback, especially Lamar Jackson, after suggesting that he's practicing in full and he will play, and then all of a sudden pulling the rug out. The significant amount of money and the odds for that game went absolutely out of control. So is it a competitive advantage? Is it influence gambling markets? Either way, after what just happened with the NBA, you cannot have a situation with the NFL of all places going, there's market manipulation happening here. What are we doing, Harbaugh? But he claims, oops, just a mistake. It was an oversight by our PR team. You got to be kidding me.
And by the way, then to try to cover up, like, well, he did participate most of practice there, but he was running the he wasn't even taking the starter reps at practice because, as we know, during the week, the beat writers show up first 15 minutes. All right, guys, you got to go. Why? Not because they're saying, oh, well, we can't allow you in there. They don't want you to see the actual game plan getting installed on the Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. So the optics were Lamar running around, throwing passes with the starters. The minute that those guys left the beat writers, Lamar, get to the practice field. You're not playing this weekend, but we're just going to put on this show. I can't wait to see what the fines actually will be for the Baltimore Ravens. I'll tell you, you should get fined. That performance yesterday by the San Francisco 49ers, 26-15, they lost. I'm not saying they should have went on the road and won, but it was an interesting line to have the Niners favored early in the week, swinging back to the Houston Texans. The Texans had Woody Marks, Nick Chubbs, Xavier Hutchinson, Jalen Noel, and Braxton Berrios, and easily dispatched to the 49ers. Why? C.J. Stroud might have his best game of the season with no weapons. How about that win?
No, and as the game was going on, the 49ers just kept losing more defensive players as the game going on. It was laughable. But the other laughable part, Donnie, is that they had a time of possession, I think, outside of maybe 4 or 5 minutes in the first half. And the fact that the game wasn't an absolute blowout, because let me tell you something, before they went into the break, guess what? Mac Jones and company, they figured out the way to make it and cut into the lead with a touchdown. And then that game was far closer than it should have ever have been, because Houston, it took them till the very end to finally put them away. And they put them away because of an interception in the end zone, which would have made it a one-score game for the 49ers. So, give the 49ers credit. They came back, but, I mean, they were playing with one arm tied behind their back the whole game, Donnie. They lost everybody who's anybody on the defensive side of the ball in that game.
Sharps, stand up, because this next game we're going to talk about hits them to their core. And I actually thought it was the right move as well. Tampa Bay 23, New Orleans 3. New Orleans, right about game time, Joe was getting 3.5 points, down from 4.5 and 5.5. Like, the sharp money is actually making moves here. If I would have told you, Joe Ranieri, before the game, Baker Mayfield's going to throw for 152 yards, no touchdowns. Oh, the running game must have been really good. 29 carries for 88 yards, 3.0 yards per carry. And the Buccaneers win this game by 20 points. Bucks D was good. Sharps go down.
Yeah, listen, New Orleans is a hot wreck here. It really is. I mean, Spencer Rattler, anybody putting money and expecting Spencer Rattler to do a good thing is just, you've got to be absolutely crazy here. I'll tell you this, though. I mean, Tampa 23-3, their defense was the winner in that game. That offense of Tampa was all banged up. But it was the defense. They had a defensive touchdown. They had 5 turnovers. The defense is what won that game for Tampa. But New Orleans is just a total wreck. It's not even close.
Like, this is the New Orleans team that we expected to show up in the season. They're playing exactly the way most people thought. One win on the season, not competitive. Tyler Shuck might now finally be the starting quarterback, but he somehow wasn't good enough to beat out Rattler to start the season. It is a mess, and that's a long rebuild. That's why they gave, Coach Kellen Moore an extra year to say, look, man, we know it's going to be bad the first couple years. Let's ride this out. Let's build this the right way, and maybe they'll try to put in that foundation. But it is bad as it gets right now. I'll tell you what's as bad as it gets, really, is the Dallas Cowboys defense, Joe. They gave up 44 points yesterday to the Denver Broncos. Bo Nix threw 4 touchdown passes. J.K. Dobbins ran for 111 yards. They embarrassed Dak Prescott and the Cowboys. The one thing you usually count on, though, is the Cowboys will score on anybody. They got 24 points, which most weeks is probably good enough for a victory. Dak Prescott, no touchdown passes, 2 interceptions. Mr. Milton had to come in at the end of the game and finish it off, and at least he threw a touchdown. Dallas gets absolutely shellacked. Boy, would be nice if they had a certain pass rusher to try to help them out on defense, no?
No, they are so bad. They lost both safeties in that game. They had backups playing backups. It was laughable. And kudos to Sean Payton and Bo Nix. They took full advantage of it, and they took advantage of it across the board. But there is no excuse for what is supposed to be a top 5 offense for how bad Dak Prescott played, throwing not 1 but 2 interceptions, and one of them at the 10-yard line, which would have made it a 1-score game at that point in the second half. And then that was all she wrote, because we knew the defense wasn't stopping anybody in that game for Dallas.
Yeah, impressive. And here we go. The Denver Broncos now sit at 6-2 on the season. We know it's always a good home field advantage playing in the Mile High City, 4-0 at home. But the Dallas Cowboys 1-4 away from Jerry Roll at this point. What are we thinking about the Cowboys moving forward? Because it looks like the Eagles are starting to say, you know what? We are going to win the NFC East, but you can't be around or under 500, should say, even if you want a wild card for the Cowboys. But Jerry always seems optimistic after the games.
No, there's nothing to be optimistic about. That showed you everything that you need to know about that, because usually the offense should be at least good enough to keep any game competitive, but they weren't even close to being good enough yesterday.
Joe, they got the next coming up, the Cardinals and the Raiders, then the Eagles, Chiefs, Lions, Vikings, and Chargers. Ouch! We'll be right back to shut it down right here on the Early Line.
Very young team outside of Durant. They're going to be an impossible out in a 7-game series, and I'm predicting it right now. If the seeding lines up, you are getting the Thunder and the Rockets in the Western Conference Finals. There's not another team in the West that's going to be as good as the Rockets are when we get to playoff time.
The Craig Carton Show, only on SportsGrid.
I don't want people to stop discounting how good of a coach Rick Carlisle is. And I think they're going to find a way to get it done. I think they're going to be better than people think. And I also think if that's the case, then I'm fading someone in that division. You know who I'm fading, and that's the Milwaukee Bucks, who have now cut 2 players this year so that they can bring back both Antetokounmpo to play with Giannis.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
People who filed it are actually representatives of Chicago, so they're from the city. They're kind of saying, this is really going to cripple the industry if we do this even more. I think it's really important when we talk about this stuff because so many places want to keep taxing sports betting more and more and more, which is well within their right. But there gets to a point where the bubble bursts and sports books either don't want to do business or they change the way they do it by passing it down to the customer.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Football contest season is back, and so is the Las Vegas Football Contest Show. Season 2, the sharpest football contest show in the land. Focusing on all 3 Circus Sports contests and the Westgate Superbook Super Contest, we handicap the games and release our contest picks every week of the season. Featuring Super Contest champions Brady Cannon, James Salinas, and former NFL player Mike Pritchard, all team will have you prepared this season like none other. Check us out every weekend right here on SportsGrid.
What a show on the early line. It's how we get down to business, people. When you show up at the water cooler this morning, you have all the information you need to know to show your coworkers you are in the know, people. It's Donnie Rightside and it's Joe Ranieri. And talking about being in the know, we talk all show long to let you know the information. But sometimes, Joe, we like to reach out to the people and find exactly what they know. Here's our Fade the Public poll. I think we got an easy one today, people. If you're not following along at SportsGrid on X, what the heck are you doing? We ask questions that we need responses to on some of the biggest topics across the sports landscape, which includes, Joe, tonight's World Series game number 3. The question we asked in our Fade the Public poll today, who do you think will win game 3 of the World Series? No lines required here, just a simple yes or no. Are you going to vote for the Dodgers or are you going to vote for the Blue Jays? And it's not surprising to me, 62% of the people are voting for the Dodgers this morning. The only surprise to me is that number, Joe, is not actually higher. People believing in the Blue Jays tonight with Mad Max on the mound.
Yeah, especially given the fact that they're a 2-1 favorite right now, right, Donnie, for this full game. So it's I agree. The Dodgers are going to win game 3, but it probably, I'm shocked that it's not a little bit higher, especially given the history of Toronto this year not being the same team on the road that they have been at that Rogers Center.
Again, from fandom, I don't like the Dodgers. I don't like Toronto. I just like to see series extended. Gives us better opportunities, more things to talk about being on the air, and more importantly, just fun as a fan. High leverage situations, Joe. Game 6 and Game 7, the big hit, the big pitching performance, the big error at the end of the game. We love to see that. I'm hoping, though, that we do see this series return back to Toronto, whether or not who has the lead, if it's Toronto or LA. Just give me the Games 6 or Game 7. Now, new week, new monies, we like to say here. Friday night picked up a victory on a total. I'm heading back to the World Series, but this is bye, people. Mad Max on the mound. He wants a party tonight, Joe, like it's 1999. Where are we going tonight? We got football. We got hockey. We got basketball. We got everything you need to know. Is it a World Series pick for you today, Joe?
Oh, it is absolutely a World Series pick here. And Donnie, I've been saying it from the get-go. There is a clear advantage the Dodgers have in not just game 1 or game 3 or maybe in every game, the Dodgers have a clear edge in starting pitching. And it's even more pronounced here tonight with Glasnow on the mound taking on Max Scherzer, who was fantastic and gutsy and all of those things in that game against Seattle to save them when they needed him to. But that was Seattle, a team that strikes out 30% of the time. And they had, Donnie, he had 9 balls hit in that game at 95 miles an hour or higher exit velocity, and only 1 went over the fence. You are not missing enough bats to go into L.A. and to beat this Dodgers team, Max Scherzer. So my advice would be, I don't like either bullpen, so I am going to take the Dodgers in the first 5. I'll lay the half a run. The advantage and the edge, too much for me to ignore, Donnie, in the first 5 here. Glasnow will limit the Blue Jays. Scherzer will not limit the Dodgers. I'll lay the half a run in the first 5.
You got it. Let's double down, because the minute I heard Max Scherzer, there was 2 ways I wanted to go in this game. I was like, you know what? Do I just go with the game total to the over? That's 8, and I agree it should go over, but it's shifting to 8.5, and I agree with that line movement because I do think we get runs. Or should we just keep it simple? Is it the Dodgers to win? But people don't really, hey, Don, it's a minus 200. Of course they're going to win. You just saw that poll question that we had. Majority think people the Dodgers. But if the Dodgers are going to win this game, I just don't see it being in a 2-1 game. And also just looking at Max Scherzer's statistics, he's not anticipated going more than 4 to 5 innings, and 5 innings would be a miracle, which means, Joe, 6, 7, 8, and 9 for the Dodgers against the bullpen. I look at the Dodgers tonight and say, what's this final score look like? 6-3, somewhere in that range, and that's a victory for LA. But more importantly, Joe, team total over 4.5 for the Los Angeles Dodgers at minus 111. 4.5 feels like 10.5 in the regular season. Like, ooh, that number's high. You can't get 5. That number's there for a reason. The Dodgers hit tonight, and they get 5+ runs, and I cash in this ticket. And why not, Joe? Let's get a 5-1 lead at the end of the 5th, so then we can get a 2-0 sweep tonight with the Dodgers.
Yeah, and it's all about the starting pitching, Donnie. And by the way, the Dodgers have won the last 7 games started by Tyler Glasnow here. So looking to make it an 8th with a lot of runs tonight.
Celebrate the sports equinox with the SportsGrid Network all throughout the day. Only 2 hockey games, but a plethora of NBA games, which includes the Philadelphia 76ers, the unbeaten Sixers, at home tonight against the Orlando Magic. Thanks for tuning in on a Monday to the early line for Donnie Rightside and Joe Ranieri. You know what? We'll see you bright and early tomorrow morning once again.